I realized that a lot of people couldn't make it because of Thursday and whatever. Next year, I looked at the.
Busy baking challah.
I looked at
Busy
the.
baking challah, making
That's the notion.
Whoa.
Challahs need a challah bakas in there. What do you mean? There's makoros for that, right? Yeah. So next year I looked at it. It's going to be on a Sunday. So your Tashem Mashiach will come and we won't.
Oh yeah, he's coming, all right.
Okay, so again, thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. Okay, so right now is a pretty big moment in my life, and I'm happy that everyone here could be a part of it. Everyone that's not here also in spirit. Making a Siyum on the entire Mishna Berurah took me 8 years to complete. And just to go in order, chronologically, of my past from my Mishna Berurah, it started probably 13 years ago, my bar mitzvah, when I received the 6-volume set. This is one of the volumes, one of the first chelak. When I received it as a gift for my bar mitzvah, it didn't look like this with the duct tape on it, whatever, that just happened after being used a little. And that's the first time I really knew those words, Mishna Berurah. I didn't really know what it was. I never opened it up. Like another set of svarim that I got, that it said in the front, I know you're not going to use this right now, but maybe someday you'll take it off your shelves. And he was right.
Little did they know.
Yeah. So he did know, because in the end I took it off a lot. So that's my first experience with it. And my uncle rather, both of them, they got it for me. And I'll read you, there's a 2-paragraph note in the beginning. I'll just read one point from it. Uncle Chanoch picked out these farm, and I thought it was really appropriate since your daddy used to love learning from Mishna Berurah. That's what part of the note, this is obviously from Amalki, for those that know my Amalki. And then it says, okay, we love you, Mazel Tov, whatever, and then it says, her kids, which doubled since then, they're in the double digits now, Baruch Hashem, 13 years later. So that's my first experience. After that, I didn't have any experience with it at all for the next 5 years or so around, until I went to Israel. And that's when things changed a little bit. And my first year in Israel, so when my parents and also other members of the extended family came to visit me, so I asked them to bring me up, I think it was a chelak Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Hey, and Vav, everything except for Daled, which was Hilchos Eruvin. I asked them to bring up because I was just learning a lot of different sections and a lot of it. And I had a chavrusa. This is how it really started after Shachris. After Shachris, I had a chavrusa. Shkoyach Eitan for reminding me. Keith is his name. And we used to learn every single morning after Shachris. I remember he's a funny type of guy. And after Shachris, sometimes, if you know him, you'll know what I'm talking about. He used to, on like Rosh Chodesh or on laning days, for some reason he'd just be in the base manager and he wouldn't go down for breakfast until it was already 20 minutes after davening. There's still other people like that also that I've experienced in the future. So he would take the breakfast and bring it upstairs with like cereal and oatmeal, and sometimes it would like spill on the tray and stuff. But whatever it was, and we learned, and it was fun. And then I came back to America, and I continued, and throughout time, day after day, week after week, month after month, finally came to the completion this year. And it's a very important, it was one of my goals in terms of learning. That's how it started. Then I came to yeshiva, and it was every single day, and I would learn by myself every single day, at least a half an hour, Mishna Berurah. And I had also other chavrusas throughout the years. Other chavrusas for around the first 3 years that I was back here. And approximately 4 years ago, that's when there were several people that were asking me for chavrusas, and I said, I'm already busy, why don't you just join? I asked my original chavrusa, why don't you just join another chavrusa? And that's how the whole concept of the chabura started, which I'm sure most people here are aware of, except for that new fancy phone. So that's how the chabura started, and it's an incredible thing not only to be l'lumod but also to be l'lamid, to learn and to teach others, and it's something that I love and hope that will continue for the rest of my life. Mirza Hashem. So that's pretty much what happened, and then it just grew and it started becoming better and better. In terms of the way of learning, I don't just like learning the Mishnah Berurah just straight, like learning it also with more recent poskim. There are a lot of things in the Mishnah Berurah that he doesn't talk about that are very applicable nowadays, such as we learned Tfilas Haderech. They didn't have planes 100 years ago. They didn't have cars 100 years ago. Let's say you have 2 flights on one day. How many Tfilas Haderech do you do if you're also taking a bus? There are many examples. Davening on a plane, davening on all of these things, they're not discussed. So the more recent poskim discuss this. Of course, the proper way is from learning from the beginning all the way through the sugya, but after that to get the other achronim as well. So you get a lot of other achronim also after the Mishnah Berurah. That's another point. In the Hakdama, the Chafetz Chaim, in Chelik Aleph, writes a few points. One of them is that without halacha, lo yarim isha Yisraeliyas yadavis ragel, that a person doesn't really know how to act appropriately unless that individual learns the halacha. That's why halacha is so important to me. He also writes that learning all halacha is of course very important, but the most applicable halacha should be learned first. That's why he says the section of Orach Chaim is the most applicable and should be learned before the other 3 sections, Yoredeya, Even Ezer, Choshen, Mishpat, which even though certain sections within them is incredibly applicable, however, overall Orach Chaim is the most applicable. That's why the Chafetz Chaim recommends learning Orach Chaim first. So it doesn't stop over here, that we're going to make a Siyum on the Mishnah Berurah, because it really continues. It continues to the further, for myself, learning and continuing to learn the other sections of the Shulchan Aruch as well, Yoredeya, Even Ezer, and Choshen Mishpat as well. And that's, I thought of an idea, near Lefinis Daiti, that the word Siyum, if you take the word Siyum, so the first letter is a Samach, goes around in a circle, and the last letter is a Mem, the Sophie table, so it's a circle with the little dot. So this could be alluding to that when you finish something, you've got to start again. You've got to keep going around the circle. Meaning you're finished, but you're not done. So you'll ask, that's very nice, on the Samach and the Mem, but what about the little thing sticking out? So that, I'm sure, could be coming to tell us that you also need to go weiter on something new. You need to learn something new on top of just the Chazara, and just the returning and the Hajran, like we said. So that's when it comes to Mishnah Berurah. There are certain sections of the Mishnah Berurah that I am definitely more comfortable in, I'm more fluent in, I'm really clear on the halachas and all the details, on a lot of details that was learned very carefully and very in depth. There's certain areas that I am definitely not as clear on. One of the things that determines the area that I'm clear on or not is based on the Gemara in Eruvin on Nun Gimel. That the Gemara says that Bnei Yehuda de Galu Mesechta Neskaimu Tarasan Biyadin. Learned this 2 Shavuos ago at night. That Bnei Yehuda, the people of Yehuda, that they were Galu Mesechta, literally they revealed their Mesechta, then their learning endured. What does that mean? So there's several pshatim. We're only going to discuss one for now. The first pshat that Rashi brings. Alamed le'acherim. The Rashi says, Bnei Yehuda, the learning, the mesechtas that they taught to others, and also it could apply that they learnt with others, they remember that more. But the Gemara continues that Bnei Glil delo niskala mesechta lo niskaimu torasem biyadam. Bnei Glil, they didn't do this, so then it didn't endure. the learning that was done, especially recently in the chaburas, that are done, and especially the ones that I prepare for in depth, those get remembered very much, very, very clearly, more than other areas which I never necessarily learnt with others or in chaburas. That's just a point that I wanted to speak out as well. There's a lot to say, not enough time to say everything. Obviously, this is a very important moment. It's something that I do every single day. Just to say two more points, that over the years, I've always learned, because you leave one of these types of Siyumim, you go to Siyum Hashas, you go to like this, Siyum on the whole Mishna Berurah, and you say, well, what can I take out of it? A lot of people leave like, okay, it's overwhelming, like shkoyach, it's a very rare thing, what am I going to do about it? So, one thing that I did, and I think that everyone's capable of doing, is a half an hour every single day. That was the minimum that I kept to. It didn't necessarily matter how much I covered in that time or not. Sometimes I spent 2-3 hours on a half a page. It depends how applicable, whatever, and how much I went into it, how much time I had. So that's something that's also just for everyone to keep. There's a story that I heard many years ago that there was a individual that came to an expert in a baki in Mishna Berurah, and he knew everything. He was quoting everything, this, that. So he asked the expert, "How did you get to this level? How did you get to such a level?" So the baki said, "It's very simple. Every single day, for half an hour, I learned." Every single day, and then after time I finished. So the individual said back to the baki, he said, "Yeah, but that's so simple, anyone could do it." So the baki said back, "You're right, anyone could do it, but I did it." That's what he said back. So that's what it is. Just one more thing to point out, that on Shabbos I always chazered, I went over everything that I did during the week, also, minimally, every single week. That's all I could say for now. There's tons to talk about. It's a tremendous simcha for me and everyone that's here. I really appreciate it. There's no official hadran. You can finish all Dalet Chelki, Shulchan Aruch with Torah, with all the Achronim, and there's no official hadran. So first I was just thinking of saying Rabbi Chananya ben Akasha and doing a Kaddish Derabanan, but then I think perhaps it could be Hashkacha Pratis, that a few days ago I just finished meseches Tamid. So I said, why not just make the Siyum on Tamid and get a regular hadran over here? And I thought that it could even be not only Hashkacha Pratis, but it could be so nogeya and appropriate for this event and for this Siyum on the whole Mishnah Berurah, because meseches Tamid, it's actually discussion, but Rashi explains in Chumash that it's called the Korban Tamid because it's brought. The word Tamid means what?
Every day.
Well, always, constant, because it's brought constantly, every single day, Shachris Mincha, and that's why it's called Meseches Tamid. So the Mishnah Berurah is something that is with me every single day. Every single day, I don't really go a day without the Mishnah Berurah, which of course, through the Mishnah Berurah, just one last point, and then the Tamid. Through the Mishnah Berurah, I can't tell you how many Sfarim I have gotten in the Mishnah Berurah. People that have seen it, they can believe it. But really, a lot of the Sfarim are because of the Mishnah Berurah and other Achronim on the Mishnah Berurah, which I learned with the Mishnah Berurah as well. Okay, so the Gemara at the end of Tamid concludes and says, Hashir Shahayu Levim Omrim B'Mikdash. The shir that the Levim, they would say in the Mikdash, B'Yom Harishon Hayu Omrim L'Hashem Halaretz U'Meloah Table V'Yoshvei Bo. So they would say on the first day and the second day, B'Sheino Hayu Omrim Gadol Hashem Ula Me'od B'Ir Elokeinu Har Kodsho. On the third day they would say B'Shlisha Hayu Omrim Elokim Nitzav B'Edas Kel B'Karav Elokim Yishbo B'Revi Hayu Omrim Kelnik Mos Hashem Kelnik Mos Okviyah. They would say different shiros every single day. B'Chamisha Hayu Omrim Harninu L'Elokeinu Azina Harninu L'Elokei Yaakov B'Shisha Hayu Omrim Hashem Melech Geus Levish V'Goymer The Shabbos, they would say Mizmor Shir Liom HaShabbos. Mar says Mizmor Lasid Lavo Liom Shekula Shabbos Umenucha Lechel Olamim. It's a Mizmor and it's a Shir for the future, which is all Shabbos and Menucha. On the last parak of meseches Tamid, throughout the Masechta, we don't have Rashi. We have someone that the Achronim they call the Mefarish, loosely translated as the explainer. On the fifth parak, which actually I found going through Tamid and Mefarish was easier than the last parak. Side point, but so towards the end you have the Rambam that takes over. He has more length, just the way he writes. Rambam, don't get me wrong, amazing. But just in terms of the parish and just following through the sikhs here. But okay, that's the Masechta. So the Rambam over here at the end explains the depth and the details with each shira and why it corresponds to that day. Okay. Hadron Alach Meseches Tamid v'Hadrach Alon Daisach Alon Meseches Tamid v'Daisach Alon V'Snishish Minach Meseches Tamid Lo Sisish Milan Lo Ba'amadim Lo Ba'amadasi Hadron Alach Meseches Tamid v'Hadrach Alon Daitach Alon Meseches Tamid v'Daitach Alon Lo Nisnish Minach Meseches Tamid Lo Sisish Milan Lo Ba'amadim Lo Ba'amadasi Hadron Alach Meseches Tamid v'Hadrach Alon Daitach Alon Meseches Tamid v'Daitach Alon Lo Nisnish Minach Meseches Tamid v'lo yisnis sheminan lo ba'amadin v'lo ba'amadasi. Yirah tzoma fanecha. Adonai Eloheinu v'yavoseinu. Shesiyeh. Tzaratecha monoseinu v'lam hazeh. Usiyah manu lam haba. Chanini bar papa, Rami bar papa, Nachman bar papa, Achia bar papa, Abba Mari bar papa, Rafim bar papa, Rachish bar papa, Surcha bar papa, Ada bar papa, Dar bar papa. Erev na Adonai Eloheinu esvei v'yeri tzaratecha b'finu b'v'yos. Amcha beit Yisrael v'nei anachnu kolanu. Anachnu v'tzitzinu v'tzitzei. Amcha beit Yisrael kolanu dei shemech v'lam dei tzaratecha. Ravai tachim in meseches ki olam hili becha tamid bechukecha leman leavosh olam ki lo eshkach bekudecha ki bam chaisani baruch atah Adonai lam dinu chukecha amin 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 sel vaed modim anachnu lefanecha Adonai lenu v'seinu shesamtech alkeinu miyoshvei beis hamedrash v'lesamtech alkeinu miyoshvei karanos shanu mashkimim v'him mashkimim anu mashkimim l'divrei Torah v'him mashkimim l'dvarim batelim anu amelim v'him amelim Anu amelim u'makam sachar, v'him amelim v'hin makam sachar. Anu ratzim v'him ratzim. Anu ratzim l'chay olam haba, v'him ratzim le'er shachas. Shenemar b'at Elohim toridim le'er shachas anshi damim emrim lo yutzu yimeim v'anyet b'ach. Yirah tzoma v'necha Adonai Elohai kashim. Shazartani l'sayim. Meseches Tamid. Kein tazrini l'haschil. Mesechtos. Usvarim acherim. L'sayim l'lumud u'lamid. Lishmor v'lasus u'kaimus kol devitam tachbiyava u'zuchos kol atanai v'amarai v'tamadei chachamim yamod li'ula zari shol yamush atar mipi zari zariad olam this is kain b'isa v'his halacha atan che'osaf v'shavcha tishmor halacha v'akitzoza yitzisichecha ki v'ui yarbu yamecha v'yotzivu lecha shnoi tzachayim orachamim b'yamina b'yisua or shivakov adonai yezamoitin anai v'rachatamo v'shalom kadel v'yisadei shmei rabbi mahu Asir l'chadas u'lachem asir l'zak l'chayam u'vnei karasi Yerushalayim u'shakal hechalavi gavei u'melkar borchanan ukral me'ar u'lasir pulchana d'shmaya l'asrei v'yamlit kudush baruch hu v'malchus yivikarei v'chayechon me'echon v'chay d'chol beis Yisrael ba'agala v'zman karev v'imru amen
Amen. Yishmei Rabba Mevorach Al Yom
V'sfarad v'shabach v'sfar v'shaman v'yisansei v'sadar v'salei v'salav shmei d'kucha v'rechu V'yom mikol v'chasa v'shirasa tishbachasa v'nechamasa v'amiram v'alma v'imru amen Al Yisrael v'arabban v'al tamidim v'al kol tamidei tamideyon v'al kol ma'adaskin v'araizu divasra adim v'di v'chol asar v'yasar Yehi l'chon l'chon shamar ma'abachin v'chesed rachmim v'chayim arichei u'mizurn arichei v'korkan nikadam avon d'ishmaya v'imru amen Rabba min Shemai v'chayim alim v'al Yisrael v'imru amen Set shalom v'roma v'yeseh shalom aleinu v'al Yisrael v'imru amen
Malta.
Toiras Hashem
Temima. Toiras Hashem Temima. Toiras Hashem Temima. Temivas Navesh. Toiras Hashem Temima. Toiras Hashem Temima. Toiras Hashem Temima. Temivas Navesh. Kedus Hashem Mesir, Einus Hashem.